Welcome to Under the Microscope. I'm your host, Jenny Germano. Thank you for joining me. I am solo today, and this is a really special episode. Today is episode 10, which means I've been doing this for 10 weeks with my podcast, Under the Microscope. And I just want to quickly thank all of my listeners who have been joining in from across the United States and also our listeners from other countries. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's topic is Don't Get Burned Out, the real talk on cannabis compliance. That's right. Don't get burned out. I thought this was an important topic to bring up because this is something I see happen to cannabis operators all the time. This is just not for obviously cannabis operators. People who own businesses in general can get burned out. But today's focus is don't get burned out, cannabis operators. So, a little bit about my background. I got my start working in the cannabis industry in 2009. I was running and managing vertically integrated cannabis operations from 2009 until 2014. In 2015, I founded my company, ICS Consulting, here in Denver, Colorado, and I've been helping operators get ready and to get open and with operational readiness for the last 10 years across the United States. It has been quite a journey. I've seen burnout as early as 2 years in, and obviously, when we start getting into 5 and 10 years, there is real burnout, something that people are not really talking about. And I wanted to spend some time discussing this topic with new and even existing operators. If you're listening, there are still ways to course correct. And for those who are just getting started, I'm hoping that this will be a tool for you to take the correct path and to not set yourself up for burnout. So first I want to talk about what does burnout feel like. I decided to look up a definition of burnout, and burnout is a state of complete mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. This is just wanting to quit, just can't do it anymore, and every little thing in the business becomes absolutely challenging to deal with. It might as well be fingernails scratching down the chalkboard, is what it can feel like for some people. I spent some time and I made a list of 10 reasons cannabis operators get burned out. So let's dive in. Number one reason a cannabis operator gets burned out: the loss of passion or any joy in operating the business. Number two, just doing it for the money and nothing else. Number three, not having a why. I have talked about this in several other episodes, and I would like to say not having a why could absolutely tank your business. And it's connected to also my number one is the loss of passion and the joy of running the business. It's really important to have one because that is the anchor of your business. And not having one, not even thinking about it, just getting a license to get a license just because you want to get into the weed game and really not have a reason for doing it, that is a very fast track to burning yourself out in this industry. Fourth reason cannabis operators get burned out in the cannabis industry: the lack of commitment or follow through. The continuous lack of commitment, not committing to why I'm doing this or committing to the responsibility of being a regulated business, is definitely a fast track to getting burned out. And it's very easy to want to give up and to want to not keep going anymore. Follow through is everything in the cannabis industry. This is an area that a lot of people are lacking because they're overwhelmed, they're burned out, they just throw whatever into the wind, and the follow through is fractured, it's suffering, and then people just aren't following through, which causes you not only to lose customers, but it can cause you to lose your staff and it could damage your brand. The fifth reason cannabis operators get burned out, the loss of connection to why I started my business. So for those of you who did have a why, that's very easy to lose the connection to the why, to get overwhelmed when things get hard and curveballs get thrown at you, and it's continuous change and things happening in the industry. And there's always this upheaval, and there's always challenging, there's always curveballs. It's so easy to lose connection to why you're doing this. It's a daily commitment to your why and why you're doing this in the cannabis industry. It's not that I'm just going to write my why down on a piece of paper or on my dry erase board and it's just going to be there in the background, but I'm never going to be engaged with it. I'm not going to pay attention to it. So it's very easy to lose your connection to why you're doing this, your mission, your purpose, your reasons. Number 6, on 10 reasons cannabis operators get burned out. Being stuck in overwhelm all the time, not having any systems or processes in place to anchor the business. So, for example, not being engaged with your SOPs. Your SOPs are sitting in your Google Drive and nobody's looking at them, or you have a bunch of binders on a shelf collecting dust. You haven't updated them. You haven't made any new changes. You're not updating your processes as your business grows. Everybody knows when you first start off in your cannabis operation that the original SOPs that you start with are not going to be the SOPs that you're going to end with. Things are going to change, processes are going to get updated. You're going to be in your day-to-day operations, and what's going to happen is you're going to fine-tune everything that you've created because things are going to change. Obviously, you're going to find cash handling, the way that we were doing it wasn't working. So now we're going to update how we're handling cash at the end of the night with our bud tenders, or how we're checking IDs might have changed, or maybe you found a new way to package that product. You have to implement those changes not only verbally and with your staff, but through the SOPs. So when you don't have those processes updated or in place, you end up flying by the seat of your pants and it generates a lot of chaos. And we all know what happens when things are chaotic. Overwhelm happens. You're in overwhelm, and it's almost like you're drowning and you cannot breathe and you cannot get all the things done that you need to get done. And it's very easy to get stuck in overwhelm the entirety of the business because at the end of the day, some of these facilities are pumping out a lot of product. Dispensaries are really busy. Maybe you're dealing with turnover. And so it's very important to have processes in place to anchor your business. Number 7 of 10 reasons why cannabis operators get burned out. Feeling like running a business in the regulated cannabis industry is a losing battle and being in a negative mindset. I have come across people who are in way deep over their head that can get stuck in a negative mindset where they think the regulators are after them, the rules aren't fair, they're overregulated. Every second of the day is a challenge. Even if these things were true, having a positive mindset could change your whole entire outlook and how you handle these situations and experiences. Number 8 in 10 reasons cannabis operators get burned out. Not able to handle all the changes in the cannabis industry and not having the ability to adapt to change. This is a big one. This is a big doozy. This one I see all the time. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it later. I actually made a really fun chart that I'm excited to share. So, not being able to handle all the changes and the ability to adapt. If anything will save you in this cannabis industry and ensure there's longevity and that you can survive it, it is the ability to adapt to change, to not fight it, to not resist it, to not combat it, to not curl up in a ball and ignore it. You have to be open to the ability to adapt to change when it is necessary. The cannabis industry is full of nonstop changes. I know I've talked about that in a few of my other episodes. It is nonstop changes in the cannabis industry. That's very easy to get burned out on that because the cannabis industry is full of curveballs and they're being thrown at you all the time. And you have to have the ability to handle that or you'll get burned out so fast. Number 9 and 10 reasons cannabis operators get burned out: cutting corners and having constant pile on. The more you ignore things, the more corners you cut, the more things will pile on. And this pile on essentially is invisible, right? Because you're so overwhelmed, you're drowning in the business, you're drowning in all the compliance things that you have to keep up with. You have no systems in place, you're burned out. You wanna just throw in the towel. You can't even believe, like, you made the decision to even get into the cannabis industry, and you're thinking, "What was I thinking? Why did I just do this to myself?" And it's so easy in that mindset to cut corners, to cheat, to save money, to not put both feet in, to have one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. It's a constant pile on. And we all know, for everybody, we're all living our lives, and in our own personal lives, everybody knows what that pile on feels like and how overwhelming it can be and how easy it is to get burned out because you feel like your plate is overflowing with so much stuff that you have to do and so many things that you have to work on and get done. And as a business owner, you're not only working on the business, you're working in the business. Two different things, completely two different things. You still have to go out there and expand your business and work on the business and do all the things business owners have to do in their business. But then you're also working in the business. So you're making sure the day-to-day operations are getting executed properly and you have the right staff in place and compliance is being followed and that the business is engaged in compliance while you're out there even working on the business. And number 10, for 10 reasons cannabis operators get burned out: putting yourself in a position where all you do is put out fires and never have any forward momentum in the business, and you're lacking the right business controls. Once again, you're working on the business and you're working in the business. You still have to work in the business. You cannot just throw it over and then put your business on your employees. Your employees are making what, 15 to 20 to $30 an hour. They really have no skin in the game. They don't own the business. You're the business owner. You still have to be in the business and work on the business at the same time. You don't want to be drowning where you have no systems in place. This is what happens. I go into a lot of these facilities and people are running around. Managers, owners have no time to focus on the business. They're not making sure the SOPs are being followed. They're not really too focused on compliance because they're too busy trying to solve problems and issues that are happening nonstop. And they're putting out fire after fire. And so you have to figure out a way, like, how do I solve the problems that are coming up in my business, but still making sure that I'm executing the business correctly and that everyone's engaging in the systems, that you're working on the business and in the business at the same time. And I would like to say, I own a consulting company. I have to look at myself in the same way. I would not sit up here and say these things if I did not know it myself, if I did not experience these things myself, and I have not learned my own lessons in the last 10 years of working in the cannabis industry. I have to go, even though I own a consulting company, I have to go through ups and downs. I have curveballs being thrown at me all the time in the cannabis industry. I have to help clients and go out there and provide the services that I'm providing, but also I'm working on the business at the same time. I have to pull myself out of overwhelm. I want my listeners to know that this is not something I read in a book. This is not something I found online. This is something that I've experienced myself as somebody running an ancillary company in the cannabis industry. And I'm just putting this towards cannabis operators because cannabis operators are who I help in the cannabis industry, and I help them with this very same thing. I can do it because I have lived it and I have experienced it for myself in my own business. And I just want to say that's very important that I share that and that people know that I'm not just throwing words out there, and I want people to understand where I'm coming from and that this is a lived experience for me as well. So when I feel burned out, it is a signal to myself that I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not taking care of my business. I'm not taking care of my employees. I'm not taking care of my customers. I'm not taking care of my vendor relationships. And I'm running on empty. And if you're running on empty, that's going to affect every area of your life, including your business, including all your relationships. And by the way, your business is a relationship. How you interact with your business is no different than how you interact with all your relationships. So I want to talk a little bit about the up and down journey. I've probably brought this up a couple times in a few episodes, but I think it's really important to talk about this because this is just how it is. And everybody has always seen that entrepreneurial map that's out there on the internet of like the mountains and the up and downs, or even there's another image that I really that's out there. There's a guy chipping away at the rock with the axe and he's chipping and he ends up giving up and he's 1 foot away from getting the diamond. And so we all know that experience where we quit too soon or we give up too soon and you just don't realize how close that you are to something, and it's so easy to want to give up. So I'm going to share what I created here, this little image. And pardon me, this is new. I've not done this before, so let me do this technical thing here and locate my image. All right, I think I got it. I'm excited. Here we go. And I'll explain to people listening. For those who are watching this video on YouTube, you'll actually see this graphic I just brought up that I'm sharing. And for those that are listening on a streaming app, I will explain the image that I have created. So I made a graphic, and at the top it says your plan. And in the images, it has an arrow that says success, and it has just a straight line going across the graphic. At the end of the line, there's a bag of money. And also, I threw in some other images in this graphic. So there's a rainbow, there's a frog chilling out on a lily pad, just relaxing. There's a guy on vacation on a beach, and the sun is shining. It's just like everything's so hunky dory and happy, and everything's perfect, and there's a straight line. And then below on the image, I have reality. What is the reality? And we don't have a straight line. I have an up and down line. Basically, for those that are listening, it looks like mountain peaks. I talked about that image we see online for entrepreneurs where it has mountain peaks. And at the very end, it's just a person sitting in a chair and they have all these thoughts in their mind and they're bent over and they're holding their head in anguish. I want to talk about this experience, the reality of the ups and downs of owning a cannabis business and being an operator in the regulated cannabis industry. And for those that are just starting out, I would like to say that the real journey begins when you get open. The application process to get a license is the easiest step that you will have to take in the cannabis industry. Trying to get open and open your doors and pass the inspections and then maintain all the things that you promised the regulators that you were going to do is the hardest part of the journey. And so, what I have on here, I wrote down a couple examples of what our mind tells us when we're in the ups and downs, especially in the downs. In the up part of the journey, everyone's feeling good. Oh, I've got this is amazing. This is incredible. I'm so glad I did this. Everything's going great. That's what it feels like to be on top of that mountain. But when we're in the valley, in the deep crevices, in the low parts, this is what our mind tells us when we're running these cannabis operations. I suck. I can't do this. It's too hard. There's too much that is expected of me. The rules keep changing. The city is making this hard. It's taken us 2 years to get open. I can't keep up with all the rules and regulations. They keep changing the game on me. I don't have what it takes. Everything is getting delayed. I can't get the funding I need. The labeling rules changed, and it's costing me more money. Employees want more money. I bought the wrong property. I have the wrong partners, and my bank account was just shut down. These are examples of everyday curveballs, and our mind wants to tell us that this is why I should give up and quit. This is the part where everyone wants to give up and quit and walk away from their business. But what I want to tell you is that this is just the normal experience of the ups and downs of running a cannabis business. This is going to happen all the time. It's going to be the nonstop challenges that I talked about. So, what can help you in this process? Earlier, I did talk about having a why. I think it's really important to have a why. So, for those of you who are listening, you can always go to my YouTube channel if you want to see what this graphic looks like. It will be up on the video. I'm going to be taking this graphic down now. For those, just give me a second here. I'm back on screen. Thanks everybody for letting me share my first graphic. We'll see how that goes. I just wanted to give a graphic of what I think a lot of people experience. There's a lot out there on the internet. You can Google it and look up, but I wanted something that was specific for the cannabis industry. And I gave a lot of reasons of what goes through people's minds when they're overwhelmed, feeling burned out, wanting to give up and walk away and quit this business, when all you have to do is recommit and find your why. Go back to why, like, why did you do this? Why are you doing this in the cannabis industry? Why did you go after the license? What were your reasons? And recommit to following through with your mission and being engaged in your business. I would like to share, I've had to recommit to my why. In fact, I probably have to recommit to my why almost daily. I have to talk myself off the ledge. I have to get recommitted in my business. I have to hold myself accountable. This is something that I do daily. If I did not do these things, I don't think I would have lasted 16 years working in the cannabis industry, still passionate, still loving what I do, showing up to work every day and enjoying what I do for a career. I would not feel that way whatsoever if I didn't make it a goal that I was committing to my why daily and reminding myself why I'm doing this. So in the morning, for those of you who love the morning and get up early and you might have a routine, just quietly talk to yourself and remind yourself of why you're doing this, right? And then rally your team. Why are they here? Get them engaged in your mission, making sure that your team's on board. The cannabis industry is a very hard industry to work in. It's always going to be challenging. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of uncertainty in the cannabis industry. We don't know if federal legalization is going to happen. Things are happening over on the hemp side of the industry where they're in the process of trying to ban intoxicating hemp. How's that going to affect the industry? How is intoxicating hemp affecting the marijuana side of the cannabis industry? How is it affecting these operators now? If we get descheduled or rescheduled, what is that going to look like? Are we going to have to now implement federal standards at all of our cannabis operations? What's that going to look like? Even myself as a business owner who is non plant touching, I have to ask myself those questions. I also have to say, what does it look like for me? What am I going to have to do? What am I going to have to pivot? How am I going to have to change to adapt with federal legalization in my own business? And I don't even touch the plant. So you all should be asking yourselves this. And so I think having a plan and having a why and just being solid in why you're doing this and have that be your anchor, it really helps support your business and it will support you as you're on this journey, which is going to be up and down. There's going to be curveballs daily, if not multiple times a day. So I came up with a list of what are 6 things that you can do to help yourself to avoid burnout. And once again, I'm trying to address new operators starting in these new emerging markets to prepare yourself for what is coming. If you are just in the application phase or you haven't gotten open yet, or your state hasn't even legalized yet, but you're thinking, oh, when we legalize, I'm definitely want to do this for a business. I hope this helps to steer you on the right path and to make really good choices, supportive choices that will help you in the journey of getting operational. But for those listening who are existing operators, you can change your course at any time. You can change the entire trajectory of your business with one choice and recommit and find your why. Sometimes people are so deep in that they think that they just can't fix it. It's just so broken. And I don't think that's true. As somebody who has worked on myself for the last 16 years and worked on my business and improving as a person, as a business professional, as a woman, that I know that it's never too late. So here are 6 things you can do to avoid burnout in your regulated cannabis business. Be proactive, not reactive. It's interesting. When I first started doing audits in the cannabis industry, it seemed like everyone was proactive. Everybody was like, oh, please come in. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. I want to be ready for when the regulators come in. I want to be prepared. And now it seems like everyone's calling and they're in a reactive, freaking out. The regulars came in, gave them some warnings, told them they needed to hire a consultant to help them, gave them some violations, gave them 30 days to come into compliance, and they had to show compliance. And so people tend to wait until there's something wrong before asking for help. So I want to help people understand that it's really important to not do that and to not put yourself in a position where you're reacting. I think I wrote on here, less reacting and more adapting. It's so true. If you're not reacting, guess what? That leaves you the space to adapt. That means you can adapt to what's coming. Instead of reacting to all the curveballs, you're just going to adapt. You're going to slow down and say, wait a minute, I've got this. I've got a solution. Let's just jump in and fix it. So you want to be proactive. There's so many ways you can be proactive, not only just doing audits and making sure that you're adhering to compliance, but it's not the regulators or the state or the local municipality. It's not your city council. It's not the fire department. It's not the police department's job to come in and tell you all the things that you're doing wrong. That's your job. As an operator, that's your job to know what you're doing, what you need to fix, where you're at. That's the being proactive part. You should always be looking under the hood of your business. Just like an oil change, you wouldn't drive a car for 5 years and never do an oil change. No, you're going to do an oil change every 5,000 miles, whatever it is that you do it. But you're going to be looking under the hood, seeing what's going on in your car, spending the money to fix the issues. If not, the whole engine's going to blow up and then you're going to lose your car. So you're going to lose your business. The whole thing's going to blow up on you. Number 2, of 6 things that you can do to help yourself to avoid getting burned out with compliance in your business, commit to having a why in your business. I talked about this earlier. You need to take responsibility for why you're doing this and not be a victim. It's so easy to become a victim to the rules and regulations. I see it all the time in the cannabis industry. Everyone thinks they're being victimized by the regulations. At the end of the day, you signed up to come into the cannabis industry and apply and win a license in a regulated industry that have a slew of regulations where you're being looked at under a microscope daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. That was your choice. You have to own that choice. You have to own the fact that it's going to be nonstop changes, that potentially the state that you're in could be over-regulated at any time. I've seen states where they start off with 23 pages of rules and regulations just because they're dipping their feet in and they're just starting off. And then all of a sudden, it's 100 pages of regulations. And then all of a sudden, you're like Colorado, we're 600 pages of rules and regulations that these operators have to keep up with. Can't get mad or upset. All you can do is do your best, stay committed to your values, what's important to you, your whys, why are you doing this? And take responsibility for your choice to run a regulated cannabis operation in the cannabis industry. That will definitely help you avoid feeling burned out if you take responsibility. Number 3, of 6 things that you can do to help yourself avoid the compliance burnout that I've been talking about. Create a compliance program to manage all the buckets of compliance. It's so easy to get overwhelmed, especially as a business owner. Why? Because you got to work on the business and in the business. And things are happening left and right, and curveballs are being thrown at you. You're in a regulated industry. The regulated cannabis industry is not that old. It's just not that old. And there's things still being figured out. And it's just going to be a continuous up and down journey in the cannabis industry, like I've been sharing about. There's all kinds of things you can do to manage the buckets of compliance. And when I say buckets, That can be like, how am I going to manage audits? What bucket do my SOPs go in? What about employee training? What certifications am I getting for my staff to make sure that my staff is not only properly trained internally, but what are these outside certifications I can get for my staff, whether it's food safety training or responsible vendor training, or maybe if they're a compliance officer, they're getting certified in 10, 30-hour OSHA for general industry. That's a bucket of compliance. What about all my software? My software is going to go in a bucket. The systems that are helping me manage all these things is going into a bucket. Product goes into a bucket, packaging and labeling. What about marketing and branding? What about sell through? Ensuring that you're selling through your inventory, whether you're on the cultivation side, the manufacturing side, or the dispensary side. How is that bucket being managed and talked about? So making sure everything has a job and is put in the right bucket and that there's a system to execute all the things that you need to do in your business. It's really important to be organized. Having systems in place and being organized, it helps you manage handling the curveballs. It helps you manage the ups and downs. It helps support you when you're in the valley of that chart I showed you, where you're up against your mind telling you how bad this sucks, that you can't do this anymore. Why did I get myself into this mess? Those systems, one, having that why and being committed to why you're doing this in your business and having all the correct systems in place to support you, it's not going to be as challenging in that valley as, if you didn't have those things. That's the whole purpose. It's to keep you on track. It's to keep your business anchored and moving forward no matter what challenge is thrown your way. Number 4, and 6 things that you can do to help yourself avoid the compliance burnout. Have the right support for you and your team. You have to have the support, whether this is making sure you're meeting with your managers, you're meeting with the people who are buying product, you're engaged with the vendors, you're making sure that you're building relationships with staff, with vendors, that you're communicating with the ownership group, all the different owners in the group, if you have a lot of owners that are involved in the facility. Have the right support. Know who you have to reach out to for your point of sale system. Talk to your vendors if you're having issues and communicate. Have people on your team who are good at their jobs. Having the solid team is everything in supporting a business owner. Number 5, and 6 things that you can do to help yourself to avoid that compliance burnout. Know where you are. You have to know where you are in your business. This helps manage the curveballs, and like I said earlier, less reaction and more adapting. This is where audits come in. And one, you can use a third party. Sure, yeah, you can hire somebody like myself, and there's lots of other people out there that do compliance audits, but you have to do internal audits. What kind of audits? Let's just start with physical inventory. If you're a manufacturing facility or a cultivation facility, you should be auditing your inventory down to your raw products, the bulk flour, whatever it is that you're using to make your product, to the package and final form. That should be audited in your business. If you don't have a packaged product on the cultivation side, then you're counting plants and you're counting packages of bulk flower and weight. If you're a manufacturer, you're physically counting your raw materials and then you're counting your product in final form. Final form is something that it is packaged to be sold to a customer and it's been labeled and packaged correctly and tested. That is final form. For a dispensary, you're counting all your physical inventory in the store. So that's all the product that you bought from your vendors. That's already been packaged. It's already in final form. It's been tested. It has all the labeling on it. And then you're also counting your bulk flour. That means if you're getting bulk flour and you have product in bags or turkey bags or however it's being packaged, that means you're dumping that bag out and you're weighing it. You're weighing the bud in the bag to make sure that it's matching your numbers in your point of sale software in the metric seed to sale system. And if you're not doing bulk, then you're making sure that, hey, the system says that I have 30 eighth jars packaged, a pre-pack, and then you're just counting your pre-pack and you're making sure those numbers match up in the system. Every state is different and how they require around packaging and labeling, whether it's bulk or pre-pack. It just depends on what state that you're in. Knowing where you are is important, and that's doing physical inventory, that's looking under the hood of your business, that's doing a scrub of your POS system, making sure, hey, is the integration working properly? Are my sales being reported to metric? Is anyone checking that? Who's checking to make sure your sales are being reported? When's the last time that you looked to make sure that sales are being reported through your POS system to metric or BioTrack, depending on what system that you're on? You know, who's auditing your facility for cannabis compliance? You should be doing at least have a weekly checklist that somebody's walking around in the business and just having a list of things that they're looking at, making sure that's happening. Doing spot checks. Are they checking IDs correctly at the dispensary? Are they putting the labels on the customer packaging correctly? Or are they covering up and they're obstructing warning statements on the packaging? There's label obstruction that happens when you're having your packages go out the door to customers. And on the cultivation or the manufacturing side, is our facility clean? Are there any OSHA violations happening? A lot of times people they're not even thinking about OSHA coming into their facility and handing out violations. Know where you are. That's your job. That's taking responsibility for being a cannabis operator. It's your job to know where you're at. And honestly, I think people should audit the compliance team. You should have people come in and audit your compliance team to make sure that your compliance team, that nothing's falling through the cracks. It can be so challenging. Speaking for somebody from experience, I ran and operated dispensaries for 6 years. And once I left working in dispensaries and went into consulting, I very quickly realized, my gosh, when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, even as a compliance person, that's what I did. I realized, geez, I missed some things, or I was so busy running around trying to make sure 3 or 4 or 5 stores were in compliance and that everything was being done properly. It's so hard sometimes. You need that bird's eye view. You need somebody who's not in the business with outside eyes to come in and look at what you're doing at a minimum of once a year. You should be doing that in your business. So that is the knowing where you're at. Look, banks, I just had an episode on banks recently, and they have know your customer. That's why banks make people in the cannabis industry do all kinds of things where they come in, they audit you, they want your financial statements, and they want to see your taxes, they want to know what's going on in your POS and metric. That's their job. It's called know your customer. You need to flip that on yourself and say, know where you are at. in your business. They're looking at you to make sure they know what's going on in your business. Why can't you do that for yourself? Why can't you know what's going on in your business? That will help you avoid getting burned out in the cannabis industry, trying to be in compliance and follow all the rules and regulations. And number 6, and 6 things that you can do to avoid burnout with compliance is eliminate the overwhelm. I want to tell you the secret. You normalize it. It's normal. It's not bad or wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Don't beat yourself up. This happens every day. People get overwhelmed 24/7, not only in the cannabis industry, in life and other businesses and other industries. All of a sudden they took on too much or too many things are happening at once. It's so easy to get overwhelmed. So all those new operators just starting off or going through these processes and just thinking, "Oh my God, this is crazy. This is so wild. What did I get myself into?" Just know all those things that you're experiencing is normal. Guess what? News alert. It's normal. I'm telling you, it's absolutely normal. You're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to have a million things coming your way. There's going to be curveballs. There's going to be ups and downs. You're going to be challenged. You're going to want to give up. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to walk away. That's normal. And all you have to do is just remind yourself that, okay, I'm not the only one that this is happening to. I like to say it's not a Jenny thing. That's what I say to myself. Oh, this is not a Jenny thing. I'm not some weirdo and I'm the only one on the planet Earth that this is happening to. It's just not true. Everyone who owns a business goes through this, including myself. And that's why I just wanted to share and have this specific episode because I go through this. I know other people are going through this. My clients are going through this. Other operators I talk to that are going through this. Other people who own ancillary companies are going through this. It's normal. And I think if you normalize it, it will help with the overwhelm and reduce it so you can get back up and brush yourself off and get back on the horse again. That's why having that why and recommitting and taking responsibility for why you're doing this. Why are you in the cannabis industry? Why are you operating this regulated business? I think in one of my episodes, I said, why are you throwing yourself into this ocean of nonstop changes? Because that's what the cannabis industry is. I hope this helps anyone who's listening. I wanted to do a different episode today. I love doing the solo ones. I've been having a good time interviewing guests and bringing on experts. That is a lot of fun, and I'm learning a lot. But also, I really enjoy going off solo and sharing about my experiences of doing this for the last 16 years in the cannabis industry. Thank you so much for listening today. I appreciate everyone tuning in every week to my podcast. I really appreciate all my listeners. I hope this topic was helpful. Stay tuned. I will be doing some more solo episodes coming up, as well as I have my operator series that I'm going to be working on next week. So I'm excited to have my next guest for my Cannabis Operators series. If you want to listen to me, you can stream this podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and we just recently got on Pandora Radio. If you want to watch my videos, go ahead and tune in to my YouTube channel, which is Under the Microscope with Jenny. That has been a lot of fun doing a YouTube channel, and I've been enjoying myself with that. I actually have a form on my YouTube channel for those listening to submit questions. If you're interested in submitting a question, if there's a topic that you want me to talk about, please submit a question or if you submit questions, I can actually have a Q&A episode if I get enough questions submitted. More than happy to do a Q&A episode for my listeners. You can go and submit that at Under the Microscope with Jenny and go to the information box. There is a link there. I'll also have the link posted in this episode as well. Once again, this is episode 10. I'm so excited to hit episode 10 and that I have not given up and that I've kept going and faced all the challenges and the curveballs that I'm facing for my own self. Anyways, thanks again, and everybody have a good day.